Hello again, Brother Dan here.
And Sister Alisha.
And this is Siblings in Zion. We have a guest in our home to talk with us. We could also consider him a sibling. He's been a brother to me for a very long time. We tried to do this over a year ago, but we all know what has happened in the last year. But he's here today, and he's someone, for me personally, it made sense to talk to him about belief in God and Christianity, because he's outside of my own family, I think the biggest touchstone to religiosity in my life. And we've had some very specific experiences and difficulties in our friendship over the years because of that. And I thought it would be a good conversation to have now, more than 20 years after we became friends and so much has happened, to see how he saw me and my struggle to fit in with my religion back then, and how religion changed his life when he was younger and where he's at with it now. So, without further ado, please welcome my brother Armando.
What's up?
Hey.
Hi.
Do you want to use your full name?
Yeah, you could use my full name, Armando Santoyo.
And let me get this straight. You are a Chicano? You're a Latino person?
Yeah. I would consider myself Chicano because I'm not traditional Mexican guy. A lot of my family, they grew up speaking Spanish, and when I was a young kid, I spoke Spanish. But right now, it's totally I'm like Americanized, definitely. But I'm me. This is who right. I am. Yeah.
Do people call you Mondo anymore?
They do, and I accept it. You could call me. It all has to do with respect. If you respect me, Armando or Armando, you could call me even a nickname if you want. If I don't feel if I know you, you know what I'm saying? Like Daniel, you could call me baby if you want. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Whatever fits.
I would do what I will and I can.
But yeah, man. I mean, it's fine. I feel like in the first time in my whole life, I'm true to myself of who I am and everything, and I'm still figuring things out.
It doesn't matter how long it takes.
Yeah, it's like at 39, I feel
it's all a journey.
More comfortable with myself than I've ever felt of who I am, and it's sad that I had to feel embarrassed for so long. That's what brings me here today, guys. I mean,
it pretty much does.
I mean, I'm so excited to be here. I've heard Lisa's testimony, and I don't know I don't know if you're really reaching people, but you reached me.
I had no idea that you even listened to the show.
Daniel, even where you're coming from, and the courage that it takes to be outside of the family and stick to your truth.
Yeah.
And I could tell you already, I'm not where you're at, I don't agree with some of the stuff that you believe, that you truly feel comfortable expressing, but
even though you don't, let me see if I have this right.
Yeah.
You don't have a church. You don't have a strict faith that you adhere to, but you're not an atheist.
I would consider myself somewhat of an atheist because I don't believe that what everybody believes in Jesus. I think that there was a Jesus. I couldn't tell you whether he was God or a man. I mean, he was both, you know what I'm saying? But to me, he was just I think he really wanted goodwill for people. But I think he was, I do believe he was a man, right? Human being.
The story is based on somebody, probably.
It's based on somebody.
Yeah.
And I think it was whatever people needed to hear at the time to feel good about themselves, right? But when it comes to, I'm still in the supernatural a little bit. I'm still into believing there's something out there because I think it's in my hardwire to kind of believe that there's got to be something bigger than this. And if there's not, let me believe in it, because if I don't believe in some kind of spirituality, there's something that connects us. I believe that in our human species, you know what I'm saying? But I don't want to stomp it out and say, hey, I straight up don't believe we're going anywhere after we die.
So there is a difference between believing that there is a connective, you could call it spiritual tissue between living things on the earth. But do you think that there is a separate part of yourself that has a life that identifies as you after your body is gone?
I don't think there's. I think there's an energy.
Yeah.
But so right now, I don't think we pass away. I think we pass over. our energy passes over in some kind of way. I don't really think when we pass over, I don't think we're going to be who we think I think we're just going to be energy. I don't even think we're going to care.
It has a lot to do with language. So you're saying that our energy, meaning I hear that as something that makes us up that might exist after what we call us is gone. But we aren't, the energy doesn't belong to us.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a part of us, and it can go on without
us. Yeah.
Us.
Yeah. This is all speculation, man.
Of course.
Because we don't know, right? We don't know till we pass over or pass away.
My assumption is you will never know that you're dead.
Exactly. I don't think, and if you do, it's not going to matter. The thing that I admire about you, Daniel, is you're living here and now. Mm-hmm. You're trying to figure things out. You're reading literature. You're reading literature, and you're trying to find the answers. But I think that, you know what? If anything, it's going to help you at this moment. It's going to help you in the way you process things. But I love that confidence that you always had, where you're trying to find yourself. And I think as a human being, what I've been trying to work on is on myself, because I know I've always seen myself as being good and all, whatever you want to say, right? Mm-hmm. Like we always have that, like I'm not in the wrong. You know what I'm saying? But then when I reflect on stuff, and even right now, I have like the best partner right now, my girl, Alisha, and I have to constantly reflect and say, hey, how can I deal with it better as a person? How can I be a better parent? And I don't always have the answers, and I fuck up a lot. I have a lot of flaws, a lot of my parents' mental anxieties or just mental health passed on to me. Mm-hmm. And even though my daughter didn't grow up in that atmosphere, she's showing a lot of the characteristics of my childhood, and she hasn't even lived my life. So it's kind of scary, but she's still...
But she does kind of have your life in her.
Yeah, exactly.
To some degree.
So there has to be, whether it's genes and chemicals and stuff like that, there has to be something about me that passed on to her, even though we don't I mean, that's where I'm coming right now, where it's like my kids... I'm the parent, and I've had what I thought sometimes was a shitty childhood, and I have my own kids, and I'm seeing them deal with the same stuff that I dealt with, but they weren't in the atmosphere that I was in that was like very harmful, very abusive, but they still have some of those traits, and I'm like, wait a second, I can't protect them from this. It's just in there. It's them. It's our genes. It's our. So to me, it's like kind of weird to see it, because it's like no matter what, and it could be from the way I act around her, that maybe I'm passing it on through that way. But sometimes I think it's something to do spiritually. You know what I'm saying? Whether I can't claim it or prove it, but it's like I think there's some kind of spiritual thing passed on to your children, whether it's energy or negative energy or anything like that. And I just want to be good. I want to be there for them. I want to be a good parent, but at the same time, I feel like they're going to have to figure it out too. And maybe they figure it out better than I did.
That's the hope.
And even if they mess up during the way, I hope they could come to me for reassurance or love or anything that they need.
That's what kept me from being able to have an honest communication with my parents about figuring things out. Me and my sisters, we had the blueprint laid out for us of how it was and how it was supposed to be. And you needed to do this and this and this and check all these boxes in order for your life to have value and for you to get along and make your life worth living, for them to have given you life. This is what they did it for. We made you so that you could follow the plan of salvation and return to Heavenly Father in the celestial kingdom. And if you don't do that, then you failed.
Exactly.
And if you fail, I fail as your parent.
Yeah, and I've failed because I won't have you in the next life. And so everything's f***ed. When it's not that easy, and it's also not that complicated.
Yeah.
It's a matter of being honest with each other and saying that let's do our best to get each other through the day.
I love that.
For your children, you have to set the example of you truly can tell me anything, and they'll learn when they try to do that, and they get honest acceptance and love and positive feedback and criticism and whatever they need appropriate to the situation. They don't learn that if they do try to be honest and you get the information that clicks the wrong box, that you're going to snap at them and you're going to judge them and you're going to reprimand them and whatever.
Yeah.
Because you do that a couple of times and it's over.
Yeah.
They're going to find it outside.
I've done all the above, but like I said, I'm still learning. I've been that what I thought was right, but then I reflect and I have conversations with them. I say, hey, listen, my reaction was wrong, and it took me, whether it was a day or an hour, but my reaction was wrong. I want to listen to you and how you feel.
Yeah.
I mean, my mom definitely gave it a lot of support, but there was a lot of miscommunication where as soon as it went to the negative, she would shut down and be like, "F me, right?" And I was like, "No, Mom, I'm just opening.
I'm the worst."
Yeah, and I'm just opening up to you. But I hope when it happens to me, I just shut up, listen.
Yeah.
And what do you want me to do? What can I do right now to let you know I love you and that I'm happy that you're figuring it out?
Yeah.
Instead of being defensive and saying, well, I fucking did everything I could to make it right, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it's like, you got to listen to them because they're human beings.
Yeah.
They're individuals. They're not you. They're going to choose
their
their
own
own
coming.
path. Yeah, they're up and coming. Yeah, exactly. And they might be more successful than you. You know what I'm saying? You might be raising the next,
Hope so.
Somebody that's very important in our history, or you might be in just a regular person, right? A simple man, like the song, But anything that they decide to be, it's their path. I would like to believe that I'm there for my kids, no matter what. I wish my parents would feel the same way about me, that they would be proud. And I'm sure my mom is proud of me. I feel like
so, yeah.
me and her relationship is way better, but can't rely on my real father and my stepfather, So that's still it's weird. I'm 39 years old. I'm still dealing with daddy issues, and that has a lot to do with this religion thing going on, which opens it up. I don't mean to lead the conversation.
No, let's segue, please. Well, I'll ask this because I'm not even entirely sure. What was your relationship to or understanding of God and religion when you were a kid, when you were growing up?
I was raised and baptized in the Catholic Church. I did the first communion.
Yeah.
And for me, church there was always some kind of reverence, right?
Yeah.
When I was growing up in a church, the Mexican culture, we show up 2 times a year, Easter, Christmas, and that was it, right? At a high school, this is a very touchy subject because it interfered with our relationship.
Yeah.
And our band at the time, right? We had a band, we had an idea. It still hurts me to look at my
plan.
Yeah, it still hurts me to look at my yearbook and everybody's like, "Hey man, I can't wait to see you on MTV," because it was a real dream and passion, right?
Yeah, it was.
We really believed that was our calling, and it could have been our calling. And then
Jesus didn't get in the way.
Yeah, and then I met a girl. And the thing that irked me a little bit was everybody kept thinking, I want to say that was the initiation to Jesus, was because I was hooking up with the pastor's daughter, and it was our senior year, the end of our senior year, and I met her on a bus, and Daniel was like, "Stay away from this girl, she's trouble." But I didn't listen because it was the first girl that gave me 100% of her attention.
Okay. So let me fill in that picture. We got this band together
sophomore year.
It was either the end of our sophomore year or beginning of junior, and I want to say beginning of junior, but we're 16.
Yeah. I was able to pitch to you, hey, how about this talent show? We do a band together, and then we
played Deftones covers,
and we were able to pull it off. And it was I felt like our first show was very successful.
People loved it. Yeah,
loved it. Yeah, I think we were very passionate at the time, and we did a lot of shows. We had a lot of ups and downs, and
so we've been doing this for junior, senior year. We started as a Deftones cover band. That's pretty much, or a cover band. We played like a dance, and we played like Blink-182 and Stained and shit like this.
Yeah, it was the popular music at the time.
Yeah, for us, we did write a few of our own songs. We were talking about expansion and recording and all this kind of stuff. Talking big for teenagers. Mm-hmm. And then we graduate, and we're on our senior graduation overnight party. Mm-hmm. Isn't that where you guys started talking?
It was exactly
on the bus ride home?
The senior party. Emily sat by me on the bus, and she was very flirty. And I was like, I've never met you before, Mm-hmm. And she was, to me at the time, I was like, I was very depressed because my dad, I know I'm bringing up a lot of shit, but basically that night,
that's okay.
I wasn't in a good mood. my stepdad came up to me and goes, I was like, hey, Dad, I graduated. You didn't think I was going to graduate, but I wanted to graduate, and I hope you're proud of me. And he's like, yeah, but what are you going to do now? So what if you graduate? You don't have any plans to go to college. You don't really have a future. He's like, what are you going to do now?
Oh my God, that guy sounds like he hates himself.
I know. I was like,
Jesus.
That's what
sounds like it had nothing to do with you. That's what it sounds like.
He wasn't a real cool guy.
He was, you know what? He was an alcoholic. He probably was drunk at the moment, but still, like, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's like there's true moments in my life where he could have just gave me a little bit of confirmation and just been like, hey, man, this is awesome that you graduated.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you, son. How about we make a plan for you to maybe do college? Like, think about your future. You really have potential to, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's ways, but to him, it was like, it's not good enough, man. This is what I heard.
Yeah.
It's not good enough, brother. It's like, you need to fucking get your shit together. You know, you don't even, I was like, well, Dad, you told me I wasn't going to graduate. Of course I didn't plan for the fucking future.
No,
you know, like,
my God.
Come on, man. I'm like, I'm shocked too that I made it this far.
Yeah.
Because you told me for years I would be shit. You know, but I thought you'd be proud of me because I was trying to please the guy that I thought should be my father, or who appeared to be a father.
He was acting like your father, yeah.
Yeah, he was in the acting role, always told me what I shouldn't do and all that. So I wasn't in a really good headspace, but still, Emily came up to me. She was very, you know, she was very attractive. She was paying attention to me, and she just made me happy that night, and it was a big deal. She gave me her number, and we flirted all night, and I never called her.
Really?
Never called her, yeah. And then one night, I want to say like a month or two after that, I was working at the same job we were working together, Ross IGA. I was working
Rest
there,
in peace.
and she was, one day she was walking down the aisle, and I was like, oh my God, that's the girl from the graduation night. And she came up to me and she goes, how dare you not call me? I gave you my number and you didn't even call me. Like, I gave you the in and you didn't even take it. And she took me home that night, or took me to my house that night and hung out a little bit. And we scheduled a date, and it went really good. It was the first time that I hooked up with somebody. So it meant a lot to me, you know what I'm saying? And so Daniel.
Then what happened?
So the thing that would always irk me about Daniel was he thought that this was, and it bothered me for a long time, was he's like, it was because you sold your soul to this Christianity because of a girl. And he warned me, he knew her better than I did because he went to school with her. I didn't know her through the whole time in high school, right? I don't know how you guys knew each other, but
I knew of her.
You knew of her, but you knew she was trouble.
I got the vibe, yeah.
Yeah, you got the crazy vibes. Yeah. I didn't get any of those vibes because I was blinded. I was finding, other things.
You know what I'm saying?
And it's true. A lot of it had to do with hooking up, right? Mm-hmm. But last year I had a reflection of it, and I said it wasn't. Emily was definitely the beginning of it.
Yeah.
But what really sucked me in was her dad, the pastor.
Yeah.
And it was crazy.
He would talk to you.
Yeah. Well, so at first I heard a lot of shit, right? He was like, I don't know about this guy. What kind of guy does this kind of stuff and doesn't have respect for my daughter and blah, 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 blah.
He's in a rock and roll band.
Yeah, he's in a rock and roll band. I don't know about this guy.
What a hooligan.
I'm hearing the negative side of it. But then when I finally start going to youth group, he's telling her that he sees a lot of potential in me.
Oh, the potential.
A lot of potential. If
he joins our church.
If he joins our church, right?
What flavor of Christianity is this?
So this is considered the Protestant church. We were the Foursquare Church.
Yeah.
There's a lot of scandal surrounding the Foursquare Church.
Of course.
And I'm going to not quote a lot of...
You would call it evangelical.
Evangelical, right? Yeah. It
okay.
started with this lady, right? And they started the church, I think... Okay, so I might be saying this shit wrong because I'll really studied, but okay, so they might have started the church in California.
The Foursquare Church, specifically.
Church. Yeah.
Okay.
And it was kind of like Scientology. She had a lot of stars in her church, a lot of movie stars.
Oh.
But then it ended with a scandal where something happened to her, and it was like a Marilyn Monroe thing where she died.
What?
And it was very shady. So you should dig into the Foursquare Church a little bit. I wish I would have fact checked it. It just came up right now.
I thought it was a more localized thing. I didn't know it had
it's like there's
history.
It started in California.
Me neither.
Huh.
So there was a stint where I went to Israel.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
One of the biggest trips I ever took was to Israel.
That's cool.
My pastor was trying to get me to become some kind of pastor in the church, and he said 2 weeks in Israel could be the equivalent of 1 year in Bible college, right? Which it's not.
It's an immersion program.
Just change the location.
Yeah, just
it's the same thing.
Yeah, less time.
Time there is different.
Yeah, exactly. So we go to Israel, but it was her dad. I want to say it was finally. It was last year. I had I was like, oh my God, this whole time I thought it was Emily, but it was her dad.
That convinced you to really dive in.
Yeah. So you keep, and I know why you do, you keep referring to him as her father, but he was a father figure.
He was a father figure, yes.
Yeah.
And that's what I was looking for. I was looking for a father figure, and he took that place.
Yeah.
I was in the church for 10 years. I went from youth group. I was only in youth group for a little bit of time, right? But it turned into the college or the Young Life, which is the college group. And then it turned into
groups.
Yeah, and then I had to pay for it, but I did a MTI, which is Ministry Training Institute through the church, and I had to pay for that.
Yep.
Of course you did.
And I did that whole thing, and then I became an intern. And that's when shit kind of became real for me, where I'm like, it's not what I thought it was going to be. But I just want to say, I want to clarify that, yes, sex, girlfriend was a beginning part of it, but really it was the father figure part of it. Was her dad always told me that I was like a son. And that is where he had me.
You felt accepted by him.
I felt
he gave you the affirmation that you wanted from your own father figure that you didn't get.
Exactly, Lisa. That's what that's where he got me. That's what I needed, right?
Yeah.
And even after me and her got divorced, because we got married at one point, me and her, and it was a very short marriage. He was very supportive towards me on the whole separation.
Perform the ceremony?
Yeah, he performed the ceremony. He actually performed. So I've been married 2 times. Going to be married again this
Pretty
year.
Soon.
Yeah.
Lucky number 3.
Lucky number 3, right? But the second time he was also did the ceremony. He was officiator, and he did the ceremony.
That's the word for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
So yeah, this guy took a big part of my life. He took a big part of my life.
I was going to say, it sounded like you misspoke, but you didn't really. He did take a big part of your life.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, that's how it started. So I started doing ministry. I started as a youth leader, and I told them about some of the stuff that I dealt with when it comes to, like I told you guys, when I was as a young kid, I was dealing with some sexual stuff, and I confronted him or told him about what I was dealing with because I knew that it wasn't right. And ever since that happened, there was a distrust, even though he shared a moment in his life where he was inappropriate with kids his age, you know what I'm saying? But I always had that on me as he would always bring it up. So I did the whole youth leader thing and always knew that I was being watched and everything. And I did it. And I could tell you guys right now with my full heart that I had good intentions to be a good Christian, but I was a very flawed Christian because I still listen to the music that, you know what I'm saying? Like when it comes to Christianity, I felt like I would make a lot of inappropriate jokes, and it had nothing to do with what I just mentioned, the sexual stuff. It'd just be like off the wall things like, oh, that's funny, right? And I watch movies that I still watch the movies that you recommend, and it wasn't what they thought. So there was something off about me, whether I was weird or something that they didn't accept about me, but they would always keep me as I wasn't fit for ministry. But they wanted me there because I was a pawn. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's how, like I said, I always felt like a pawn. And I was telling you, it was like, I'm not trying to be a victim of the Christianity, but I was a pawn. Because when I started doing so this is years after I started doing the internship, they said, you guys are the first ones. And this is my ex-wife was
Meaning you got paid to work for them?
I didn't get paid to work for them.
Oh, okay. It was an internship.
Yeah.
You don't get paid, but you still did
work.
I did work. Yeah.
Okay.
I was expected to go to 3 meetings a week, not including the ministry that I was already in, which was the youth group. I was doing worship band. Even though I was a musician, I was still, they would turn down my guitar because I was so shitty. But I'm like, why am I up here? Like, it's because we need...
Because you're a cool young guy.
Yeah, we need you up there.
Yeah.
But they would turn me down. To me, it was fake, right?
Sure.
You're up there with a turned down instrument and you're fucking pretending to worship and shit. Anyways, so I was doing that. There was a falling out with the youth pastor. They had nobody fulfilled. They went to like 10 other people before they came to me because they're like, you're not fit to do ministry, right? And this is after Israel and everything.
Yeah.
And
ministry meaning like you would be a
I would
leader
be in a pastoral role,
okay,
but not be ordained.
So they didn't want you to be like in charge of people.
Yeah, but I was in charge of people. So it was like overnight. Like I said, they went over 10 people. They're like, hey, can you lead? Because we don't want Mondo to lead because we don't trust him and he can't do these duties. And deep down, I probably shouldn't have been because I was like that counselor. You want to be cool with the kids? So you're like, yeah, whatever, yeah, dude, what's up, bro? Because I thought I was reaching kids. So
I'm cool.
Like, I'm cool, bro.
I'm one of the cool guys.
I was such a I was a piece of shit. I could agree. I could be honest with you guys.
Yeah.
I was not fit for the role but I was the only one there. But that wasn't the shit that bothered me, right? At that point, I was trying to prove myself. I was the heaviest I've ever been. I was like not in the right headspace. I definitely was trying to be too cool and a friend instead of actually fulfilling my pastoral duties, saying there wasn't anything inappropriate because, like I said, during the beginning, I felt like I was always watched. I knew that. So I would always be like, hey, don't ever...
Well, why?
Well, it's just because I shared to my pastor about, like, my childhood and then, like having inappropriate stuff when I was a child. And he used it against me and always treated me like I was a threat to any of the... But the whole time I was just trying to get, whether it was guys or girls, I was trying to get them to come to the youth group because that's what really mattered, the numbers, right? Because he would always mention the numbers. So if he saw me talking to a younger lady, he would act like I was, being like, why are you targeting her? I'm like, because she's like the only kid right now that hasn't come to my youth group. I noticed that. Like, I was like, all of a sudden I'm a threat. I'm like, why am I even asked him, I was like, why am I in youth group if you feel like I'm going to do inappropriate stuff? And I could tell you with my honest heart that I've never done anything inappropriate when it comes to that. And I've been accused of it because I would talk to these, if it was guys, you could do whatever. But if it was a girl, all of a sudden you're out of line because you're paying attention to a young female. You know what I'm saying?
I've seen that over and over again.
Yeah.
And because they separate boys and girls, and then they separate them in age groups of boys and girls in the Mormon church.
Yeah. And
people are always side-eyeing people if they're looking at each other from across the cultural hall.
Yeah. But you know what? If it was my daughter...
Suspect.
Yeah, it's very suspect. If it was my daughter and she was getting a lot of attention from a youth pastor that was a male, I probably would be up in arms. So that's what I'm saying. I'm at the time, I was like, you can't... Because one guy got kicked out for giving a girl a ride home, right? Nothing happened.
Wow.
Actually, wait. He didn't even give her a ride. He trailed her to her house because she felt scared to go home, and he's like, I can't let you ride in my car, but I'll follow you to your house. And the mother called and said, this creeper was following my daughter all the way to the house, even though they had an agreement that he was to follow her to her house so she would feel safe.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of those boundaries, and I understood the boundaries, right? But we had youth worship leaders that were hooking up with younger girls.
Oh boy.
Sounds pretty typical.
So I understood all that, right?
Yeah.
I had my childhood that I had to deal with, but at the same time, I knew the boundaries as an adult that you don't cross that line, you know what I'm saying? There's a 12-year-old girl that cornered me in one of the rooms where we'd sell the concession stands because we always had concessions because we had to make money, right? She corners me in the room It says, Mondo, I need to talk to you. And I'm like, I thought it had to do with something for the night, right? And I was like, what can I help you with? And she's like, I'm having sex.
What?
And as she's saying it, I'm like, I was like, this is inappropriate because I'm a male. And she's a young female. So I'm trying to tell her we need to involve one of the female youth leaders because a female needs to be here anyways, right? That was kind of the policy. So I go to the pastor's daughter. This is his real daughter. I don't know if you know her.
Yeah.
I tell her, hey, this girl came up to me. She's having sex. She needs a youth leader, female leader, to pray for her and talk to her. And maybe we need to contact an authority figure. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to listen to her, but I can't. This is inappropriate. I tell her about it. She goes, I'm not going to do it. And I'm like, you're the pastor's daughter. You need to do it. You're a leader. She's like, no, I don't pray.
What?
I'm like, you're a leader of the church. You need to talk to this girl. She needs a female leader to help her. I can't do, I could be there, but I need you to just stand there and be with me. And she wouldn't do it. So that incident happened. There's these two girls. They're these sisters. I did the background checks for them. Turns out that the pastor's daughter had an issue with them, so she didn't turn in the background checks. The policy was that if I wanted a leader, all I had to do was background checks on them. She was in an active youth group administrative thing. She saw them as a threat because these girls were praying for young ladies. They were so homeschool and so pure to me that when an 11 or 12-year-old would come up to them and say, hey, I'm having sex, they were like, what? What?
Shut down.
Yeah, like they would cry with them. They would pray for them. They were doing the leader thing to do, right? Support, like spiritual support. Yeah. But even though they couldn't believe that this is happening because they're not going to have sex till they get married. And they were what you wanted from a youth group leader, right? I got pulled in the office and the pastor says, how dare you bring somebody outside of the church, the Foursquare Church, to lead? You know this is wrong. And he was going to put me on a sabbatical.
What?
Yeah, he's gonna sabbatical basically is like kind of fired, but you're not fired, but you're gonna take a break, right? And I told him like, hey, I did everything I needed to do. Your daughter's doing the administrative work. She did not want to pray for these girls. These girls were ready to fulfill the youth group leadership that I needed. Because these girls need help. You know what I'm saying? So he's upset at me. And then what ended up happening was they put me on a sabbatical because we had 2 free tickets to this show or this youth group event, which is one of the events that I went to when I actually committed my life to ministry. It was called Generation Unleash, right? And it was a big deal. And I wanted to me, it was a big part of my Christian walk. So I wanted to get these kids in there, but none of them would pay the amount. So I was having these kids that they got kicked out of, or they were said no to by a lot of venues because they're playing. They would go to youth group, but they wanted to play rock music, and a lot of churches were turning them down. And this is where I was like, that cool pastor where I was like, have the show here. I'll give you guys a little bit of the money, but I got to keep the majority of the funds, right? Which is, I'm not saying it's right. It's just at the time I needed to build a fund for these kids to go to that conference. So finally, it's time for that conference. And I have the money to pay for the kids that want to go that don't have the money. And the daughter of the pastor was like, hey, you get 2 free tickets. I'm going to take the other free ticket. And I was like, no, that ticket is for my wife because I was married at the time with my second wife, the kid's mom, And I was like, no, that ticket's going to her. And she's like, well, she doesn't do anything in youth group. I was like, yeah, but it's the ticket's for the pastor and his wife. Yeah. So I'm going to give her the ticket. If you don't want to pay for the ticket, we could use it off of the funds that we collected from the concerts that we're having. I'm fine with that. It's just the free ticket's going to go. It's meant for my wife, so she's going to take it. She goes to her dad, cries about it, and he's pissed off. So I get pulled by another pastor, and she's like, hey, Mondo, you really messed up. You attacked a single mother of 2. And attacked a single mother too. And you're lucky that the pastor's not here because he's ready to put hands on you. And it was like, at that point, in my life, I was already used as a pawn many times where I was burned by the pastor, where he didn't take any responsibility for the things that he had me do, to the point where as soon as she said that, I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done with the church. I'm done any kind of ministry, because I haven't been paid the whole time I was doing ministry. The guy that had the pastor job before me, he was getting paid. But then when I was doing it, and there's many times where I was, when I was expected to be at these meetings. So you're like, what's going on here? I was expected to go to all these meetings, right, as an intern. And every time I had a say, I'm like, I can't go to this meeting because I got family stuff going on. Because I was neglecting my real family, like my mom. And I remember one time I missed one. My stepbrother went to the hospital because he had a staph infection.
Oh, God.
Because I had to do church stuff. Because I was trying to get out of it. And my pastor was like, why are you trying to get out of it? You don't have a job. I'm like, I don't have a job because I'm doing this 24/7.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to explain to him, yeah, I'm looking for a job, but I don't have a job because of the fulfillment of the ministry.
You're bullshit.
Yeah. And I honestly was working for... when I was a pastor, I think I did it for a year and a half. I was working for free. And then, like I said, the guy that was working before me, but the pastor was making way more money than anybody should be making at the time. To me, it was a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think it was in 2010 and 11, he was making almost $4,000 a month. And we didn't even have a big church, you know what I'm saying? And he had the biggest house in Silverton and all this kind of stuff. And I was just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You know, this guy is taking advantage of his ministry and he's not doing all the work.
Imagine that.
I'm doing a big share of it, you know, like one of the things that was changing my mind was there was somebody, his mother was dying and he wanted the pastor to be there, right? Not a big, out of the whole week, the pastor needed to show up once to show some kind of leadership. He's like, I don't want to do it. So he sends me and my girlfriend at the time to go to pray for this guy and his mom. And we get there and he's like, where the hell's the pastor? So we get yelled at by him, the sister, and an aunt about how dare the pastor not show up and we have to take all this. So we drive over there on our own dime and we get bitched out, and I come home, and I feel like shit, right? Because this is not what the guy wanted. He didn't want us.
Who are you?
Yeah, who are we? We don't,
Yeah.
So I go tell him what happened, and he's like, oh, yeah, whatever. That was that incident, and I was like, whoa, dude, this ain't right? And then there's another time where there's this family, they're doing a graduation party for their daughter, but they're talking shit about the church, and pastor's wife was like, Mondo, don't you dare, because I was part of the council at the time, meaning like I was making big decisions in the church. She's like, don't you dare give them those tables that they need for that party because they've been talking a lot of crap about us. So I go to their house, and they're really good friends of mine at the time. But after this incident, they weren't. So I go over to their house. I said, hey, I can't deliver the tables. Something has been going around that you've been talking shit about the ministry and the pastor, and I don't think it's right for me to give you the tables because that's what the wife asked me to do, right? And I was a good, faithful servant, so I didn't do it. And then what happened was they turned around and gave him the tables after everything that I did for the pastor's wife, and then they made it seem like I was out of line, and I had to take the blame for it. And I lost that friendship. It was a really close friendship to the point where I almost lived in their house. So it was hard for me to swallow after that. And that was where I was, I started seeing behind the curtain stuff. All this shit is happening. I get a sabbatical. Finally, I decide to leave the church, and I'm going through, something happened where I started breaking away from the Christianity faith and everything. And Lisa, this is where you come in, is where you're talking about how you felt after you decided to leave the church. You didn't say it maybe in this word, but it was exile.
Yeah.
You're losing a lot of the people that you grew up with. But at the same time, you're dealing with, what do I believe in now?
Mm-hmm.
Everything I believed in was a lie. So I'm going through that same stuff. I lost all my friends that were from the church. That's all the friends I had.
Yeah, it sounds like you were doing that for a long time.
Yeah, I lost all my friends. So one of the guys that's in my wedding right now, or going to be in my wedding next month, is Brian. him and his new wife showed up to my house. And then there's another guy, Hank, from the church, but he wasn't part of the church anymore. He was like one of those guys that left, but he still was on the fence, you know. Those were the only two people, but they weren't the closest friends that I had. I mean, Brian was a close friend. Me and him had a really close friendship, but still, like, none of the pastors showed up. I would get a message from the pastor, you need to come back. I didn't have anybody, and I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't have anybody to talk to. And at the time, I had anxiety, real bad anxiety. Like, I would have panic attacks. And I got off of medicine because it was making me depressed, and I was smoking too much weed, like 24/7. I didn't think, you know, I still don't think weed is a bad thing, but I know it's bad when my brother and Daniel, you at one point you came over and you're like, bruh.
Dude, bro,
get your shit together. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you know there's something wrong when everybody's coming up to you. You know, at the time I'm like, I need it. I need this, need to smoke all the time.
Yeah.
But I was covering up a lot of the shit that was going on, and I didn't know what to believe in anymore. And Pastor convinced me to sit down with him, and I didn't want to do it because he always had a way to to make me come back, right? And he did.
A lot of manipulation tactics.
So we went and go have coffee, and he's like, Mondo, he goes, if you're like a son to me, if I know the ship's going down, if the ship's going down, you are the one person that I knew was going to ride it out with me.
Ugh.
And he goes, and it hurts me.
I hate
and
that.
It was weird, dude. He broke for a second. And he's like, oh, I need to stop. He even said this. I need to stop saying this because I'm saying words that are just going to make you come back. I'm saying, I know the words to say for you to come back, and I need to stop, because he knew he was manipulating me. And I did come back for like 2 seconds. But when I came back, I was doing a worship song. This is like right when I met my fiance. She came, you know, like I met her, and she came to that service, the last service that I did.
Mm-hmm.
I picked a worship song that I felt in my heart that kind of was like a real song, right? Like to me, it was very like conviction. Whoever wrote the song, I could tell they're going through some shit. And he started right away, like from being a nice guy and telling me I could do whatever I want as long as I'm part of the church. Mm-hmm. He was like, this song's so stupid. This song, don't ever do this song again, right? On the way to church, I'm telling my girl, Alisha, about all the stuff that I just went through and how I didn't want to go to this church service. I don't want to be part of it. And she asked me a simple question. She goes, Mondo, I could tell you're still hurt about a lot of stuff. And you don't trust these people. Why are you doing this? I don't care if you do it, but why are you doing this? And I was like, you know what? You're right. And after the service, you know, after all that shit happened, I did the song. We did the worship service. I was like, I'm never coming back. But I did something that I'm not saying it was right, but I had to cut him off. I blocked his number. I blocked him on my Facebook because I had to shut him out, because he knew he used me for 10 years and he knew the exact words that I needed to come back. And I knew it because I would always fall for it, because I was like, I think there was a flaw in me, and there still might be a flaw in me where I haven't spoken to him. Could have been, I want to say maybe it was 7 years. I haven't really talked to him. I did run into him at a funeral, and I was trying to keep away from him because we still have the same friends, you know. And I was trying really hard to give space between me and him, and he kept going into my space. He's like, what? Am I all of a sudden like a somebody you can't talk to? Or, you know, he's trying to build and then he starts talking shit about my kid's mom, thinking like I'm going to fall for it and be like, oh yeah, thanks for being on my side, you know. But I wasn't. I was like, no, dude. I'm like, you need to be over there and I'll be over here. But
boundaries.
He was like, yeah, boundaries, right? But he wasn't respecting it. He didn't want to respect it. And it was just like, it was gross. I was over it. And I still can't go into a church and hear the pastors and not think that's gross. Yeah. I get a gross thing, you know, like when the pastor's dressed nicer than you and he drives a nicer car. I can't. It's gross to me. I'm repelled by what Christianity is today.
Yeah.
Like I said, I hold on to hope that, you know, like there's something after we die, or even we need to figure something out in our own life. But I don't believe that shit anymore.
Yeah.
And your guys, like I said, I'm talking a lot. I'm sorry, guys. I feel like Lisa's like overwhelmed over here, but
I'm gonna circle it back. But
okay.
Go ahead and finish what you were going to say?
I just want to say that, there's still things that are touchy. Like you guys were talking about your confirmation letters. Do you remember that?
Oh, our patriarchal blessings?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've had the same shit happen to me, right? I've had
You
that
had
process.
a blessing.
I had a blessing.
Yeah.
Somebody spoke over my life. Somebody that prophesied my
Sure.
future, right? You're talking about it. You're kind of laughing about it. Daniel, you don't fucking believe in that shit, right?
Yeah.
There's something that still irks me deep in my soul because I wanted to believe in it so bad at the time that there was a calling in my life. So even as you guys are speaking about it, and I believe that you guys are touching a subject that needs to be touched, I still feel some kind of reverence in my heart because I believed it for so long.
Yeah.
And it tears me apart, you know what I'm saying? When somebody talks about it and there's no reverence. And I'm not saying you guys were disrespectful.
Yeah, and that's not even your religion.
It's not. It's not my religion, but there's something in me that still believes that it wasn't all shit, was it? It wasn't all a lie, was it?
It's hard to believe.
It's hard to believe. There's still something that's holding on, like, maybe we didn't have it right, but there's something real, right? Like there's something in me.
Yeah,
but I love that you guys are exploring that. And I love that you guys are touching on those subjects because they meant so much to me. And this podcast means a lot to me because you guys are exercising your voice to talk about it because it, you know what I'm saying? You should be able to question it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
So fill us in, because you said growing up, you went to church twice a year, basically. That was the norm.
Yeah.
It wasn't an everyday thing.
No.
It wasn't drilled into you, I don't imagine.
No.
So, yes, you were attracted to a girl who was a Christian, but what convinced you, what spoke to you in order to get you to engage beyond your relationship to her and wanting to do whatever?
And besides the pastor's influence on you.
Yeah.
What convinced you that, I'll speak about it personally, what convinced you to tear down all your Deftones posters, and quit our band, and go whole hog into being an evangelical Christian?
That was exactly the next question I was going to ask.
Because
awesome.
I remember this phone call. You called me and you said, Daniel, I'm sorry. I'm out. I can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
I'm getting rid of all my Deftones stuff. I can't do the band. I got to follow this path. And I'm like, okay, what? Right now, I couldn't explain how that happened to Lisa. So I would love for you to, how do you explain that to yourself? How did that even happen?
Okay, so I'm just going to explain how I remember.
Sure. This was a while ago.
We said Generation Unleashed, right?
What's that?
Generation Unleashed was the youth
yeah.
conference, right? They had thousands and thousands of people.
I remember you telling me about people speaking in tongues.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh.
So I want to say I was shut down most of the time. At one point, a speaker went on there and he was speaking about, and there's something about I really believe, this is what I'm telling you, there has to be something like when you gather a lot of people.
Yeah.
Let's call it hype right now, because maybe that's what it was. There's a big hype. And this pastor is talking about God has a calling for you.
But the more people, the better.
The more people, the better. I think that's true. As soon as
the people around you are holding their hands up,
you're speaking in tongues. At first you're like,
swaying.
These people are fucking crazy.
Palms up, palms out, baby.
Something happened.
Invite Christ inside.
And that building, I believe in energy.
Yeah,
there was an energy in there, and
so you felt the spirit, is what you're telling us.
I felt the spirit, but I mean, if we really think about it, it was what that pastor was saying.
Of course.
Right? It was just the community.
He knew the words. He was pushing the buttons. But it was,
You're special.
You're special. God's calling you.
He wants you.
If you were Lisa, called by God, what would you sacrifice? What would it take for you to be the chosen one.
And when that basket comes around, you put as much money in there as you feel he deserves.
I'm playing around about it, but that's true, right?
Yeah.
No.
You get a very superstitious, very influential young person that has no path, right? His dad's telling him, you don't got nothing fucking going on in your life.
What are you going to do?
What are you going to do? There's some guy that has a way of his words, and he's got thousands of kids.
All you need is charisma.
Fanatic. He looks at, it looks like he's looking at you, right?
Yeah.
That's what everybody always says, the pastor, when they're pointing, even though there's thousands of people in front of that fucking finger, he's pointing at you and he's speaking to you, Daniel. And he says, hey, man.
That's just what I needed to hear.
What would it take, Daniel, for you? God chose you. What would it fucking take for you to be God's chosen one?
His
right?
servant.
His servant. What would it take, man? And at that moment, he touched me in my heartstrings.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I am the fucking chosen one. I would sacrifice everything if God could just make my life better.
I will take down my Deftones poster.
I would take down my Deftones posters and my fucking Crow poster and all the shit that I stood for to be God's son, God's chosen son.
Wow.
To fulfill his ministry.
I got to leave it all behind.
I gotta leave it all behind. I got to start from the bottom. That's what Christianity always teaches you. You got to break down your foundation, or you got to break down your house and start from the foundation. You start from the foundation and you build it, because anything before that is garbage. Everything before that was garbage, and you build it from the foundation.
Were they speaking in tongues?
They were fucking speaking in tongues, bro. Boy. They were speaking in
Did you believe that? Did you believe that speaking in tongues was a real phenomenon? Did you speak in tongues?
I spoke in tongues.
You did?
I spoke in tongues.
Wow.
And I honestly, in all my heart,
did you feel that was really happening to you?
I really felt at that moment that it was happening to me, and I believed it.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I looked at you and I said, Daniel, I'm here for you, bro. I love you, bro. I'm going to tell you about Jesus.
Yeah.
And you're going to turn around your life. Yes, I'll go to your Mormon church, but you're going to come to my church. And as soon as you hear the word of God at my church.
You've been to a Mormon church?
Yes, I went with your brother Daniel. Because I said, this is a deal.
You really? You brought a friend to church?
We did. We made this deal. I said, Daniel.
I do kind of remember having this conversation.
You need to come to my youth group because you need to hear the word of God. And he's like, if I got to go to your fucking church, you're going to come to my church, bro. And I said, deal, because when I go to your church, I'm not going to believe any of the lies. But then when you come to my church.
Exactly.
God's going to speak
That's where the
to
magic
you.
happens.
Yeah, and you're going to be saved in me, and you're going to like rock out in heaven.
Then we're going to start the real band.
Then we're going to start
Jesus.
For Jesus. We're going to start this Christian band. And we're going to say
we probably would have been more successful.
We probably would have, because it was very, it was very, what do you call it? It made a lot of money for the Christian. There's so much garbage
There's
Christian
a lot
music.
of bands that specifically chose to be Christian bands because
there
is a niche.
Yeah.
There's a market.
And I was one of those fools, I was listening to some of that garbage rap because it was Christian. And it was better than Michael W. Smith, who was a musician, and you wanted to listen.
Toby.
I just wanted something that fucking rock. Yeah, Toby Mac.
Yeah, Toby Mac.
That's the truth, dude.
At least you could still listen to POD.
Yeah, I wanted to tell you that definitely there was a hype. Yeah. There was a
you got stoked.
I got stoked. I thought that God was really...
And you knew that if you could marry this chick, you could bang her.
No, I knew that
Lest we forget.
If I married her, that her dad would accept me, and that my life would turn upside down,
and it would be totally approved.
Yeah, I would be living the path that God had for me, and not what I didn't know was. I was going to just be nothing.
So, what do you remember about being friends with me in our late teenage years when I had to go to church and I was still involved?
Mm-hmm.
What was your perception of what the role my religion played in my life and in our communication?
I knew that I didn't really know that much about you. Mm-hmm. I knew that there was definitely a lot of Mormons in high school. There was quite a few. But they still joked around like we did, right? Yeah. They still... More or less. We said inappropriate stuff as kids, right? Yeah. To me, it wasn't a big issue at all until I started following Christianity, and they were telling me that the Mormons were a cult. You know what I'm saying? Really? But if we want to be true, did they use that language? Yes, that was the language that we used. Yeah. And that's why I want to say I was trying to convert you. Yeah. was because that as a baby Christian, I think there's nothing more dangerous than a baby Christian. A baby Christian is ready to, whether like the only example I have for you is like the mob. They're ready to do the dirty work.
The passion of the convert is a real thing.
Yeah. There's some real, what do they call them in the mob? There's real soldiers that would go in the fucking streets and say anything that needs to be said for you to be saved. And I really believe that when I was a baby Christian, I was in the streets doing all the work, and I was doing a lot more damage than I was doing a lot good because I was using a lot of language that I was seeing the pastors use, but it was hurting a lot of people because it was very damaging. You know what I'm saying? Like words like, do you know who God is? Yeah. Well, so does Satan. So what makes you different, right? You know, like that was a thing that I said to somebody, and he was like, "Whoa, bro, what the fuck?
Calm down.
Are you saying that I'm Satan worshiper?" I'm just saying, you know, like it was just something that there was definitely. That's what I'm saying. That's what's gross about ministry to me is that they use words to bring people in, and they could convince a poor person to give their last dime to fund, you know, a church that's not really doing anything for the people. It's a business, right? Yeah. They actually run as a business.
Oh, yeah.
You know, pastors making a lot of money for doing nothing while the other people work hard and barely make anything, you know?
Sounds like pretty classic story.
But yeah,
to
Daniel,
me.
in high school, it didn't really matter to me because you are real. To me, you've always been who you are. In high school, I didn't give a damn until I got saved.
Mm-hmm.
You were my first real best friend. You know what I'm saying? I felt like we had a lot of things in common. I feel like we argued a lot in our friendship, but that's my personality.
We did, yeah.
I do that with all my friends. I'm very, you know, like, I don't think I'm a liar, but I think I exaggerate a lot sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I tend to feel like my side of the story. But if you could come back after having an argument with me, you definitely have respect from me and love, you know.
Here's the thing. You know, we were so young and we didn't know any better, but the Christianity really came between us pretty hard for a bit, at least at first. Yeah. It took some getting used to. I mean, we had to basically build a new friendship based on your identity as a Christian.
Yeah.
Which was just not the guy that I became friends with.
Yeah. I definitely was 100% convert or whatever you want to call it. But I knew that I had to keep you in my life. Whether to convert you or just be in your life. And I had a lot of FOMO because I feel like, I don't know why I wanted to start a family so early.
Yeah.
Maybe because I didn't have a really good family growing up. And I thought that I could do it better.
Well, let's speak to that. So how long did your first marriage last? At least 3 years.
Yeah.
So did your second marriage basically come together the same way in that it was based on having a Christian wife to start a Christian family?
Yeah. So of course, the first, you know, like when it comes to Christianity, my first wife, we were what would be considered sinning because we were hooking up. But my second wife, to me, she was very pure, very sweet, very quiet. And I kind of felt like a savior to her because I felt like I was taking her out of her environment and being a hope for her because she lived with her mom. And I was like very wanting to take care of her. So it was more of what I thought a Christian relationship should be, right? You find someone that's never been with anybody and you start from the foundation. And we're both at the same ministry. I met her at MTI, which is the Ministry Training Institute that I was telling you about. And that's how we met. And we were building a relationship. And it was like, to me, it was the most holy relationship I've had during my Christian walk. And we started a family. And then it turns out that there was some stuff in her life that happened that she's, you know, we weren't you could tell, I mean, like, Daniel, you were one person that could tell me, like, there was something off. You know what I'm saying? And even my best friend's like, hey, there's not, you know, like when I'm with my fiance right now, you guys could tell the chemistry. You're like, Mondo, this is the first time that you're really yourself.
Yep.
And I feel like this is really me. But at those times I could tell maybe there was something off. It's just like, you know, when you're if you're not outside of yourself, you're just in your make-believe land that everything's going to be okay and that you're doing the right thing. But it was definitely influence from the pastor because I wanted to break up with her because there was a lot of signs that we weren't compatible because I knew I was a different person and I needed somebody more like me.
Yeah.
And I wanted to break up with her, and he convinced me that I needed to get engaged with her because he had a calling for me to be a youth pastor. And that was one of the things he wanted. Because he, like I said, he always thought that there's something about me that I couldn't be a single person and be a youth pastor.
Well, that's
so
a
he
basic
thought,
Christian identity. You got to have a wife.
You got to have a wife.
An authority of any sort.
You don't have that temptation to be...
Yeah.
But, like I said, I was ready to break things off with her because I felt like we weren't compatible. But he convinced me, and I believed it. And there was some kind of like, maybe she is the right one. I'm just not seeing it. And it didn't turn out that way. It turned out totally opposite.
But you ended up with 2 kids.
Yeah, beautiful kids. Yeah, awesome kids.
And so what is they were born into a Christian household, and I'm sure that was part of their first few years.
Yeah.
Do they even have a distinction between the way things are now? And
they kind of do. My kids they're hurt. She's very Christian. Still.
Yeah.
So they have that, and then they have me, and my daughter's always giving me that, hey, Dad, I remember when you used to play on the worship team. I wish that you would still play on the worship team.
Oh.
And I'm trying to tell her that I'm not the same guy that I used to be.
Yeah.
But if you choose that way, if that's your path, you could do it. I totally accept you if you want to be a Christian.
Yeah.
I'm telling you that I'm not. But you got to respect me too, right? You got to respect where I'm at too. I'm not going to be what you remember. Because she remembers me playing on stage, being, in the worship band. And I could tell that, but it's like, kids, we fantasize about our parents getting back together,
Yeah.
And that Disneyland shit where everything works out in the end. But I could tell you right now that me and the kid's mom have a really good relationship.
That's good.
It's better because of the shit that we went through. And it's weird at times because very hippie-ish, but my fiance gets along with my ex-wife.
I was about to
point
say,
where it's uncomfortable sometimes, but at the same time, that's what co-parenting is.
Yeah.
So we have like a hybrid relationship where we'll have dinner and my ex-wife is there.
Yeah. I was about to say, your fiance is almost reverent towards your kid's mom, which...
She is. Has a lot of... And it wasn't always that way. Because when we started our relationship, I was going through the divorce and the counseling. And I was spending a lot of time with my ex-wife to come up with the parenting plan.
Sure.
And we're still working shit out when it comes to hard feelings.
Yeah. A
lot of counseling. And my girlfriend at the time was like, what the fuck? This is not cool. Spend a lot of time with the kid's mom. What happens if you guys get back together? Like, we're not gonna get back together. I could tell you right now, it's not gonna happen.
Nah, bro.
Yeah. But we're to the point where we're a hybrid. I want to call it hybrid. It could be another name, but basically, my new wife, and my ex-wife could coexist in the same. And even my ex-wife, just recently, she's like, "You got 2 moms." She's accepting that the kids have 2 moms. And that's a big deal to me because you don't just let anybody be your kid's second mom. But we have to keep a respect, and we're trying really hard. I really want to do counseling, but I really like where everything's at. And then there's times where I'm uncomfortable because this is new to me. It's weird. You got like I said, you're drinking wine with your new wife and your ex-wife, and the kids are happy and you're happy, and you're just trying to be there for the kids because it's about them, not you.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So Lisa has a heart out. Did you have any questions?
You're doing a great job of asking the questions I wanted to ask.
Okay.
I have 2 questions that aren't really that important. I was reading this book, and it's written by a monk. And he was talking about, like, why did Jesus have to die? And I was just wondering what you were taught in your Christian flavor, what the answer to that question was. Why did Jesus have to die? Was it a transactional thing? Was it like, you're a terrible person and this is what God needs from you for him to love you? Or like, was it a grace thing? What was the doctrine that you were told?
So I'm kind of forgetting some stuff from the Bible, but I know this, that there was always had to be a sacrifice, right? Abraham had to sacrifice his only son. God made these rules and man broke them. So as soon as I'm born in sin.
Original sin.
Original sin.
There has to be a sacrifice.
Because Adam and Eve up.
Yeah.
I'm paying the
Those
price.
assholes.
Those assholes.
Right.
I have to pay the price because they chose to eat the fruit.
And yet, my problem starts right there. They had no choice. The whole system that the Mormons would call the plan of salvation depends on that happening.
Mm-hmm.
So how did they have a choice? How could they be punished for doing exactly what they needed to do for any of this to happen?
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
And the same thing about Judas, right?
Yeah.
Wait, you're God and I'm supposed to betray you? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you knew I was going to
destiny.
betray you, wouldn't you tell me, hey, Judas, don't betray me? But Jesus needed him to betray him to die, right?
Mm-hmm.
He needed to hand him over to the Roman Empire so they could crucify him. So I'm just thinking, like, we talk a lot of shit about Judas, but really, fucking poor guy. he had God in a human form. Could have said, hey, Judas, don't fuck me over, dude. It's going to end up bad for you.
Judas,
everybody's going to hate you.
Don't you fuck me, man.
Yeah, don't you fuck me, man. You know what I'm saying? But no, it's like, we're going to let him do what he does because we need the story to be fulfilled, right? So when you're saying, why did Jesus have to die? Mm-hmm. I was taught that Jesus had to die because God wanted to show that he would sacrifice his only. As I said, I'm kind of grossed out. He had to sacrifice his only beloved son, so we could be redeemed from the sins from our fathers, Adam. Adam and Eve, because they fucked up. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, we have an scapegoat. We have fucking Jesus dying on the cross. Even if I'm saying like fucking Jesus, like that's blasphemous, right? If you really think about it. But he had to die so we could be forgiven for our sin.
The sin that he chose is a sin. I've seen this meme of Christ knocking on a door, and essentially it's like, you better let me in so I can save you. And they're like, from who? From me, if you don't open the door.
Yeah, it's very punishment focused, and the argument that Richard Rohr makes is that it's about love, not about threats and fear and wrath, or at least it should be.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because I want to say when I was a baby Christian, it had a lot to do with fear.
Oh yeah, so many rules.
When they talked, I think one of the first sermons I heard was about the moon turning red, and I've always had a phobia about the moon, but that was definitely one of them.
Oh, yeah.
They're talking about the end of times, and they use fear.
A lot of scare tactics
To get people to, and I want to say that 90% of the reason why I converted was because I had fear that what was going to happen to my soul.
Yeah.
That was going to be eternally in
You
hell.
have to be saved.
I have to be saved, yeah.
It's the only way.
And I have to save as many people as I can.
There you go.
And that's Christianity.
Yeah.
Any kind of Christianity, that's Mormonism.
Save your ass. Save your friends' asses.
Yeah.
When did you get the tattoo on your arm, and why did you get it?
The cross?
Mm-hmm.
So this is like where you become like one of the, we're talking about Christian bands.
Yeah.
What cooler thing to do as a Christian than get a cross tattoo? Yeah,
bro.
I just remember at the time I went in there for a piercing, and I honestly thought that this is where I said they considered me a bad Christian. Was I had piercings and tattoos, right? But I was trying to make a statement. I was like, because I heard about, I used to listen to POD. Yeah. Those fucking guys had tattoos all over and dreadlocks. But I'm like, what a better testimony about God. I always thought that I wanted to get a cross, but I wanted like a small one. And she blew the shit out of it. So I blew it out to a bigger. But that's the story, is it kind of happened by accident. And the cross was a stereotypical thing to
little
get.
On the nose.
Yeah. That's not the only tattoo I have. I have a tattoo right here.
Much cooler one.
Yeah, and a much cooler one to do with our favorite band and a little bit of a video game that I played. But when the Christian kids see that, because I still have Brian, who's very Christian, and his daughter see that, they're like, can you cover it up? Because it scares me. You know what I'm saying? But they're okay with the cross, right? They love it.
Because it's based around a skull.
Yeah, it has a skull on it, so they freak out. And I have a lot of family members that love the roses but hate the skull. But yeah, but it's nothing spectacular like coming in Jesus moment.
That's cool.
Do you have any more questions, Lisa?
My last question, earlier when we started this discussion, you said it's all speculation. You know, at some point we don't really know.
Yeah.
And my question is, does that bother you? That we'll probably never truly know anything.
It doesn't bother me. Like I said, Daniel, you feel like you have a lot of conviction on what you believe, right? If I tell you I might believe in UFOs.
Yeah.
Or one fight we got into is like, is there a possibility that there's interdimensional beings, right?
Yeah.
You're like, you fucking idiot.
It wasn't a fight.
Okay.
First let me clarify. It's not that I have conviction in what I believe. I think I have more conviction about what I do not believe.
Okay. I love that. I love the way you put that, yeah.
From what you said earlier, I'm not really seeking for answers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to go through, take in information, keep what makes sense to me, what helps me, and the language that will help me speak to that to others without being so strict to any one type of philosophy or any one philosopher, and to continually have an open mind when I am on this path of curiosity.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for like an ultimate answer because I don't think there is one.
Yeah. Lisa, to answer your question is, do I want to know?
Mm-hmm.
Do I need to know? I'm definitely seeking answers, but I think if I die not knowing, I think it's fine.
Yeah.
I want to be a better person. I think I'm learning a lot about my mental well-being. I don't need to know, but I'm going to seek it. I like what Daniel's doing. He's reading books. You're reading books. Is because I'm not okay with just sitting there and just, I don't want to be gullible anymore, and I don't want to get sucked into somebody else's beliefs. I want to know myself, but I also want to know my own beliefs and what I believe. We're talking about earlier about our culture and where it's going. I want to be stern in what I believe and be able to communicate what I believe, but also open to other possibilities. I don't want to be a hard right or a hard left. I want to be Armando Santoyo.
Yeah.
I want to be myself. I want to Armando Santoyo. I want to be me, man. I want to be, and I want to have conviction in that of what I stand for, but at the same time be open to new things. That's what I admire about you, Lisa, is like you're still on the path. I mean, it feels like you're still on the path, like you have a lot of confidence, but at the same time, you're still dealing with what I was dealing with when I first got out of the church, where I was like, where do I go from now?
Just being lost.
And it hurts me because I've been there before, and I don't think I've still found the answers, but I'm there. I'm there, man. I'm there where you were. And even Daniel, like you being supportive to her, whether she's your sister or not, you being there for her questions and everything. That's why this podcast means so much to me, is because you guys are brave to do what you're doing. Because there's there might be repercussions from family and friends, but you guys are doing it because you guys are real people and you're really dealing with the shit, and you guys want to know. You guys are ready to learn and find out what the truth is. And even if you don't know the truth, you're okay with being who you are, but it still hurts.
Yeah.
It still hurts because, you feel like you've been lied to. You feel like you've been manipulated. And there's still desires from your mother and your father and family members to be who they think you should be, but you should have the freedom to still be with your family and still be yourself. You know what I'm saying? I respect that. And I love that about you guys, that you guys are brave to me, you know what I'm saying?
Thank you.
It means a lot to me.
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
Thanks for answering my questions and sharing your story with us.
You've meant a lot to me for a long time. And every different phase of our relationship has been important, and it's all led to where we are. And I think it's fantastic that you and I are still, I don't feel like I've ever lost my connection to you. It's been challenged over the years, but I think I can see in you that you are in the best and most comfortable and most honest place in your life. I think that has a lot to do with the person that you've chosen to be your wife here very soon.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm honored that you chose me to be your best man at your wedding. Third time's a charm.
Yeah.
Not only do I approve of this relationship, I'm excited for you both.
Me too.
So, again, thanks for being here. I'm Dan.
I'm Lisa.
Brother Armando Santoyo.
And this has been Siblings in Zion.